Hey, Lions Nation! We're back with another exclusive video bringing you all the latest news about our beloved Detroit Lions. Before we get started, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel so you never miss anything about the team. Now, let's get into the news. The lights are out, the cameras are still rolling, and the official statement is a perfectly polished lie. A sterile eulogy printed on a sheet of bond paper designed to make the masses move on, to recalibrate their fantasy leagues and their futures, betting without a second thought for the man whose gear's just stripped, but we see the seams, don't we? We've seen the way they chew up talent and spit out husks, and now they're doing it to AMON-RA St. The sun god is done, they say, out for the entire 2025 campaign. A casualty of a phantom injury that appeared less like a catastrophic collision and more like a carefully timed economic demolition. Let's not talk about the knee, or the ankle, or whatever disposable medical jargon they plastered over the wound. Let's talk about the timing. The man, a relentless, unbreakable engine carved out of pure will, was approaching the threshold of true generational wealth. A payday so enormous it would have fundamentally changed the power structure in the Lions' negotiate iron room. Perhaps even the entire division. He was set to be the keystone, the foundational brick of a franchise finally escaping the decades of cosmic institutional decay that have defined their existence. And suddenly, the plug is pulled. Think of the collateral damage, the millions erased from his future ledger. The playoff window violently slammed shut on a blue-collar team that dared to dream bigger than the script allowed. The sheer, crushing weight of expectation now transferred to the fragile shoulders of the next in line, the discount replacements who will run the same routes for a fraction of the cost until their own expiry date arrives. This isn't just a sports injury, it's a structural collapse. A controlled demolition mandated by the cold, calculating spreadsheets of ownership who decided that the price of St. Brown's continued world-class excellence was simply too high for the business model to bear. They talk about long-term health and player well-being, but those are just whispers in the wind meant to soothe the casual fan's conscience. What they really mean is long-term fiscal stability. For the house, not the player, they sacrificed the prime of a courier on the altar of the salary cap, ensuring that the team remains just competitive enough to keep the turnstiles spinning, but never so dominant that one man can leverage his greatness into a piece of the empire itself. The raw numbers, the impossible consistency, the almost supernatural ability to convert impossible third downs, these were his sins. His fatal flaws in a league that prizes compliance over dominance and predictable labor over unpredictable genius. They've retired his body from 2025, but they've also retired the idea of him, the undrafted, underestimated grinder who could unilaterally defy the system. The league thrives on replaceable parts, on the next wave of hopefuls, and when a player becomes indispensable, when his value threatens to exceed the manufactured narrative, the system must, by definition, find a way to neutralize the threat. So they gave him the silence. A year in the void. A calendar wiped clean to remind him and every other blue-chip talent waiting in the wings that the shield protects the bottom line, and the sun god himself is just another flickering candle in the grand, rigged casino of professional sports. Now tragically and conveniently dimmed, his cleats gather dust, his locker stands empty, and the echo of 1,000 third down catches is already fading, leaving behind only the sickening truth that in this game, sometimes the biggest hits aren't delivered on the field, but in the mahogany-paneled rooms where the real architects of fate sign the dotted line. This is the dark side of the spotlight, the brutal commercial calculus that turns heroes into tax write-offs. And it's a story that will not be whispered in the mainstream, but it will be felt a gaping, unfillable void on Sundays. A chilling testament to the price of being too good, too soon, too expensive for the machine to tolerate. Before we move on, take a second to drop a like and subscribe. That way, you'll stay up to date with every exclusive Lions update, and you'll even have a chance to win an official Detroit Lions jersey. Let's keep going. The unsettling stillness that now hangs over Detroit's receiving corps is not the quiet of recovery. It is the deep, suffocating vacuum left by a stolen future. A chasm in the offensive architecture that speaks volumes about the fragility of greatness when confronted by the immovability of capital. Every route now run by the next man up feels like a shadow of a former brilliance, a pale imitation of the sharp, surgical cuts St. Brown perfected. The kind of devastating precision that cannot be taught, only possessed. Consider the ripple effect, the catastrophic domino sequence that this single fabricated announcement has triggered the confidence of a young quarterback. Reliant on that singular, dependable safety net, now fractured and scattered. The strategic play calling, once daring and vertical, now relegated to the safe, horizontal checkdowns that bleed the clock and guarantee mediocrity, the slow, agonizing realization for the fan base that the one man who embodied their collective, desperate hope has been neutralized. A checkmate in a game played far above the turf. This whole situation smells of a deliberate, clinical intervention, a soft tissue injury diagnosis for a career that was anything but soft. A non-contact sidelining that suggests a far more insidious, non-physical confrontation took place behind the closed doors of team facilities and agent conference calls. There's a persistent, ugly rumor humming beneath the surface noise. A cynical whisper that speaks of a contract holdout that never technically happened, because the team preemptively manufactured the grounds for his absence, leveraging their absolute control over his medical narrative until he's forced to re-enter negotiations from a position of profound, undeniable weakness. They've turned a physical specimen into a liability, weaponizing his own body against his financial destiny, forcing him to watch from the periphery as his window of peak performance, that precious, unforgiving span of an elite athlete's life, ticks down on a calendar he can't control, and the media, the great, lumbering, complicit beast, they feast on the crumbs, repeating the benign official statements with pious nods, never daring to ask the obvious question: why now, why this player, and why the sudden, definitive end to the season when all signs pointed to an iron will and a superhuman pain tolerance? Because to challenge the narrative is to jeopardize the access, and in this symbiotic ecosystem of denial, the truth is always the first casualty. AMON-RA ST. Brown is not just missing a season, he is a cautionary tale, a ghost in the machine, a perfect, brutal example of how the business of sport, when faced with an uncontrollable force, will not hesitate to dismantle it, to erase the very memory of dominance, to ensure that the house, the billion-dollar shield, always wins, leaving us, the spectators, to mourn the loss of what could have been and to stare into the abyss of another lost season, knowing the hero was vanquished not by a rival defender, but by the cold, unforgiving hand of the bottom line. We bring you the latest Lions news every single day, so make sure you're subscribed. Hit that like button and turn on notifications so you don't miss a thing. And of course, drop a comment below with your thoughts on today's news. Your voice makes a difference for Lions Nation. See you in the next video.